All right, today we're going to put leadership right under the microscope with a really fascinating case study. We're going to break down exactly what happens when the person in charge is completely out of touch with the people doing the work.
And that's really the big question we're digging into here, isn't it? As you're about to see in this story, the answer can set off a chain reaction that's just, well, it's a total disaster. So let's set the scene. Meet Amit. He's the head of this big, pretty productive department, but he runs it with this one simple and, as it turns out, fatal rule. He only ever talks to his 6 managers. That's it, no one else. So you can see right away how this structure creates a massive chasm. You've got Amit way up at the top, completely insulated by this layer of managers, and totally disconnected from the teams who are actually on the ground getting things done. Okay, this is where the plot really thickens. On one hand, you've got the teams. They're described as dynamic, focused, total self-starters, basically a dream team. But then you have their managers, who are seen as incompetent, self-serving, and just plain critical. It's like oil and water. You just know this is not going to end well. So, with the setup like that, a ticking time bomb, really, what happens next? Well, the cracks start to show. And this wasn't just a few personality clashes. It was like a rot that started spreading through the whole department.
And get this, the hypocrisy is just off the charts. Behind his back, the managers thought Amit was a terrible leader. But to his face, oh, they were his biggest fans. This two-faced game just poisoned the well and meant that no real problems ever got solved. The whole department just got stuck.
And you know, this wasn't just office drama. It had real tangible effects. Motivation just nosedived, the managers started chasing their own agendas instead of the team's goals, and all these grievances from the teams just kept piling up. All the while, Amit is just coasting along, thinking of himself as a simple, task-oriented leader, completely oblivious to the chaos brewing below.
Now, let's zoom in on one specific incident that just perfectly captures how completely broken this whole system had become. This quote is from a manager named Vimal, and he's basically the poster child for the department's failures. For him, if you did a great job, that wasn't something to praise. You were just doing what you were paid for. He'd send emails to people sitting 10 feet away from him. He just figured any conflict would eventually sort itself out.
So here's where we see the system in action. One of Vimal's team members gets so fed up, they go over his head and talk to Amit directly. And what happens? Does the problem get solved? Nope. The employee gets punished. They're slapped with an official warning for poor performance. The system was literally designed to protect its own broken parts.
And that right there was the final straw. It took the department from just being dysfunctional to being in a full-blown crisis. A crisis so big that even Amit, from way up in his ivory tower, couldn't ignore it anymore. So what happens next? A mass exodus. The best people, the real engines of the department, they just started walking out the door. They felt totally ignored, totally unheard, and they voted with their feet.
And you know what finally made Amit sit up and take notice? It wasn't the terrible morale. It wasn't the fact that his people were leaving in droves. Nope. It was when the department's performance numbers took a nosedive. Only then did he decide, okay, maybe I should do something.
So Amit decides to act. And his big idea? An anonymous survey. But honestly, the survey itself isn't the shocking part. The truly wild part is how he completely, utterly misread the results. This is maybe the most telling moment in the whole story. And look, the survey itself was pretty straightforward. 3 simple, direct questions. Anonymity was guaranteed. I mean, it was a golden opportunity to finally get some real, honest feedback about what was going on. But then, and you just can't make this stuff up, he calls the meeting to discuss the results of the survey that the team members filled out. And who does he invite? Only the managers, the very people who were at the heart of the problem. The employees? Shut out. Again.
Okay, now for the biggest twist of all. Amit opens the meeting and tells his managers that reading the survey results made him extremely happy. Happy! He was actually thrilled with what he read.
I mean, the disconnect is just staggering, right? The survey was basically a giant collection of red flags, screaming that there were huge problems, especially pointing to this massive overemphasis on the managers. But that is not what Amit saw, not even close.
Amit's big takeaway from all of this was that the survey proved his managers were the department's heroes, the flag bearers, and that their roles needed to be emphasized even more. He didn't just miss the point, He took the exact opposite lesson from the whole disaster. And that's pretty much where this story leaves off. Amit, totally convinced he's aced this leadership thing, while his department is basically on fire. So now, we turned it over to you. Let's really dig into the questions this whole mess brings up. So, first off, what were the real team-related issues going on here? It seems like it goes a lot deeper than just having a few bad managers, right?
And that really makes you wonder, what was the true source of all this unhappiness? Was it just the managers? Was it Amit's isolation? Or was it the very structure of the department that set everyone up to fail?
Which all leads to the final and maybe most important question. If you were Amit and you somehow had a moment of clarity and actually understood what that survey was telling you, what's the first step you would take to stop the bleeding? This case really shows us just how critical connection is in any organization. What happens when no one's leading? Well, now you've seen one very real possibility.